Hello, everybody. Thanks for being out. It's a great day for everybody between Columbus and Fremont. Don't you agree? It's a big day. It's a big day. I think that most of us here are unfortunately old enough, and I'm fighting this aging stuff really bad. Most of us are old enough to remember when the start of the expressway started. Suzanne and I moved back in 1983, and that's when construction started just east of, on the east side of Columbus. And so it's been a project, it's been a labor of love by a lot of people. And so let's stay positive and say that's really good. Persistence, perseverance makes a lot of things happen. I think that one thing that's really important is our infrastructure and growing Nebraska. I think those are two words we all agree on. Working together to grow Nebraska so that we have an extraordinary place for generations and generations to come. And I can't share the story enough about learning from Alonzo Denny, the tribal leader of the Sani Sioux, that said, hey, my grandfather taught us what we do lasts for 7 generations. I never had the ability to understand that till then. And these are exactly the kinds of projects that have impacts for 7 generations to come. And, you know, if you don't believe it, just think back to what our founding fathers did 150 years ago and the impact it's had for the quality of life and the places that we have to live. So it's incredibly important that we continue to make sure we make investments so that we can keep the wheels on the trucks going round and round, going between our communities, because it's so incredibly important and vital for our economy. Our roads and our roadways are lifeblood to be able to make things happen and to be able to make sure we have great careers for our kids. That'd be one I'd ask us all to stop using the word jobs. Who in the heck anybody here want a job? I think we want careers. We want to make sure that we have the infrastructure in a connecting way so that all of our kids and our grandkids and their kids have tremendous opportunities for great careers. And when we talk about great careers, I couldn't be more jacked up about the new economy that we call the bioeconomy and how Nebraska is the epicenter of the world for the bioeconomy and all the things that we're making from carbon above the ground instead of below the ground. And there's nobody that wins better than what the people in the state of Nebraska will. So I want to give a couple shout outs. One would be certainly to Senator Mosier. One shout out would be that he doesn't introduce very many bills and create chaos in the unicameral. So I'm grateful for that, Senator Mosier. Senator Mosier introduces bills that really matter, like bonding, to change the thought process that we can invest in our future by bonding so we can build more roads instead of paying for them for the last 50, 60 years, 100 years, whatever, out of our cash funds. Just think if we'd had the courage to do bonding for our highways 50 years ago, how much faster this would have been done, how much better value we would have had for our roads, and just think how much bigger Fremont would be. Just think how much bigger Columbus would be, Norfolk. You get the message. I think the other piece, obviously, for this part of the state is Highway 275 and completing of that expressway. It's really a big deal. And then obviously the passage of 1335. Tim McCoy with the Game and Parks is here. That Senator Mosier spearheaded so that we can make sure that we have the same standards for endangered species and that we can make life less cumbersome and make this permit process easier and a little bit easier. And then lastly, obviously, the infrastructure hub. It's really important that we work together and come together as one Nebraska. And maybe my last my last comment would simply be that I think it's important attitudinally for all of us. The good news is we're independent, but the bad news is sometimes we're too dadgum independent. Maybe when we think about blizzards, we had quite the conversations, Vicki, during the blizzards. Well, nobody's calling for help. Well, no, of course nobody does. We just roll up our sleeves and figure out that we can do it ourselves. So same way when we have tornadoes and so forth. So it's really important that we start becoming a little more reliant. I'm more guilty than anybody being independent, but I think it's important that the more that we can work together, be one Nebraska, the more we can have transformative legislation take place, the more we can complete infrastructure, the faster, so that we really grow our economy. So I just want to give a gigantic congratulations to everybody there's lots of people that have played pivotal roles in this process for the last 45, 50 years. And on behalf of all Nebraskans, I say thank you. So thanks for being out. And let's give the mayor of North Bend a kudos. He's responsible for the weather today, so he did good. All right. Yeah, next, I blew it here. Next up is Senator Mosher. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all you do, Senator.
Good job. Thank you. Well, this is unusual when we're here to celebrate something good that government has completed. So often we're explaining why something's taking longer or why it didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to. And Mayor of Columbus, Bulkley, and I were out here. He's here with us today. Numerous times for groundbreaking and ribbon cuttings and other things that mark the progress or the slow progress of it. And I appreciate his support and his interest in him being with us today. As far as bonding is concerned, Senator Walz, who's also here today, picked up that bill a couple sessions ago, and we just couldn't get traction with it. But in the last session, with the help of Governor Pillen and some folks at the DOT, we were able to get that bonding bill passed. It allows us to finance roads in bigger sections to save money and time by not having to get separate permits for smaller sections of the project, and if it makes sense economically. Right now, rates are fairly high and inflation is high, so bonding is a more select tool in the toolbox right now. As far as 1335, we've had permitting issues with road construction in Nebraska for a long time, and when we weren't doing a lot of it, we didn't have a lot of money, we just kind of plodded through it and did it the way we always did it. And the Department of Transportation and Director Kramer came forward and said, the governor's really interested in streamlining the environmental process, and so we got together with the Department of Roads and the Department of Game and Parks, and we went through our regulations to make sure that our regulations follow the national requirements, but that they don't require more process than we need. The federal law is a backstop. We have to follow that. But we had some parts of Nebraska law that made it more difficult, more expensive, and took more time. And so I was glad to get that through. Luckily, the senators were all distracted with other things, and Senator Walz and I and some others got that through and got it approved. So I appreciate the interest of the governor in the transportation projects in Nebraska. I'm glad he's interested in this and he's getting behind it. I appreciate the work of Director Kramer and all the engineers and Ryan, our contact with the Department of Transportation. So anyway, welcome. We're here for a happy purpose. I've only had one complaint. Well, actually, I've had a couple, but I'm only going to mention one. One of them is it's so smooth and homogeneous to drive through here, people can't keep track of where they are. So what we need is a 7-Eleven or two, or something like that. Before you'd be going through Ames, or you'd be going through North Bend, or you'd be going by the old Kratzel garage over here, and you had some marks to show where you're at. And now it's so smooth and effortless to get through there. I think that's a good thing. Anyway, thank you so much. Glad to see such a nice crowd here. Have a great day.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Joey Spellerberg. I'm the mayor of the city of Fremont. It's great to have a prior mayor here. Mayor Mosier was 12 years in Columbus, so I know we have a lot of local elected officials here as well. And I just want to say I appreciate all the work that you do for your communities. This is a big day to be able to open up North Bend to Fremont on the expressway system. I know growing up, my mom was one of 10 brothers and sisters that lived out in Schuyler. So I can tell you, like many of us, we went up and down this route all the time. And so when you look at the safety of the roadway, that's obviously critical. But also for economic development and commerce, to be able to have 4 lanes like we have is just a truly tremendous impact for Dodge County and our region in general. I serve as the co-chair of the Metro region for 6 Regions 1 Nebraska, and we just had our regional meeting. And really our goals, yes, our workforce, childcare, housing, we know the needs that we have, but we're not able to accomplish those goals without the infrastructure and the roadway system that we have in Nebraska. And that's why the expressway system is so important. And it's so important to Fremont. Not only with Highway 30's connection, but with 275 up to Norfolk, as well as work planned for Highway 77 south. Really for Fremont, as mayor, we are that kind of hub of northeast Nebraska where all roads lead through our community. So we really feel like it's an exciting time for our community with the infrastructure that's there. We also have exciting economic development opportunity with our Inland Port Authority, which also connects into this roadway system that we have. So looking to the future, we believe that Fremont and Dodge County in this area and Columbus, the more we can connect our communities, the more successful we all will be. And so I just want to thank the governor for his priority of the expressway system, Director Kramer. We really have a bright future, and thank you all for being here. I'd like to now introduce Nebraska Game and Parks Commissioner Director Tim McCoy.
Good to see you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to talk a little more in specifics about the bill that Senator Mosier brought, 1335. The beginning of that bill was a conversation with the Department of Roads about some of the challenges they were facing. And there were some real challenges with Nebraska's law. The Non-Game and Endangered Species Conservation Act, or NESCA as we call it, hadn't been updated in 25 years. It did not recognize some of the tools that are available through the federal law. And so it created some conflicts and some challenges when we were working with roads in conjunction with our federal partners on species that are federally listed, because they're also listed as state-listed species. And as we talked about that, one of the real challenges that really hit me is they have been great stewards of our threatened and endangered species on roadsides. And in many cases doing work that restored habitat, provided benefits for those species to be able to come into. And so their concern was a valid one. And that concern was, well, if we have a species and we do this, the way the state law is, are we going to have to come back in the future on an existing road and go through a process that might require mitigation to offset that? And so part of this bill really focuses on existing transportation infrastructure and exempting it from our state act. The federal act will still apply on federal species. And then also as part of that, any new right-of-way for new infrastructure would initially go through the normal review process like any other project. And then after it's developed, it will then also be exempt. So there's not this duplicated problem, because Department of Roads has been a great partner for Game and Parks and done great work with environmental stewardship for over 40 years. And they continue to do that. They have staff that work on that work with our staff. And so the other part of this bill that is great is it also puts into statute the partnership we have, the ability to work together to provide those shared benefits, and to do it in a way that makes sense in the right place, And, road right-of-ways, we know they're going to be disturbed through time. Roads are going to have to be replaced. They have to be maintained. There's infrastructure that needs to be fixed. And so that helps us from the state standpoint on that perspective. The other addition is the ability for Nebraska to allow incidental take. Federal law allows that. Our state law really was more restrictive. It identified that there had to be a net benefit. We're excited about that. That will allow us to help move not just NDOT projects quicker, but for any project in the state. So this has a bigger scope than transportation. And it also allows us on a federal species to basically work alongside with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And when they issue an incidental take, we will issue one under our state law that's identical. And that will also speed up some of the process and some of the bumps in the road that we've saw through time. So we're excited about this. We see the value in transportation corridors. As managers of the state's wildlife and park resources, we want those to be available to visitors. And visitors need roads to get around, especially when you look at our parks locations around the state. We want to invite tourism. We know that's important for the economy. So we're glad to be a part of this. We look forward to what we can do working with our roads partners for the next 40 years to continue to make good transportation investments and improvements, and that we are good stewards of the environment working together. And now we'll have Vicki Kramer, who's batting back up for everything I messed up. She's the director of NDOT.
Thank you, Director McCoy. Thank you, Mayor, for your insights into what these projects do for our local economies and our local communities. Governor, thank you for your vision to make everything come together that we're going to talk about today. Senator, without you, we wouldn't have been able to make a lot of the progress that we have. So I thank you for your support and your leadership. Sarah Walls, very much appreciate everything you've been here and helped us through over the last couple of years. Today is really about progress, not just project on the project we're going to talk about, but progress on the pieces of project delivery that help projects come together. You can see the road behind me, it's open. So why have a groundbreaking? Why take the moment to really realize it? It's because we are creating a monument around the completion of a corridor. To have a 4-lane divided highway between Fremont and Columbus is huge for this economy. It's huge for the local communities. It's a safety component. It will drive future growth. It's something that we promised in 1988. And we're finally here. So we owe it to the communities. We owe it to our partners, whether they be from FHWA, Hawkins, Cedar Valley, everyone in attendance. We need to take a minute and stop and clap and say thank you for helping to get this corridor done. So thank you. But we also have to talk about how do we, still staying positive, Governor, how do we make sure that we condense the timeline of these corridors? When we take on a project, how do we get off that footprint and deliver the projects faster? So that's why you see those things brought together today. You talk about, 1335. What does the threatened and endangered species law have to do with project delivery? Well, it helps us get through the environmental portion faster. It helps us make sure that we're investing in transportation in the right way, that we're balancing our commitments to environmental stewardship with our taxpayer funds and making smart investments. And striking that balance in the legislature has allowed us to do that. And it's also about how do we fund projects of regional significance? How do we move projects forward? One of the first conversations that the governor and I had was, we need to draw down from our federal funds. We're looking at a once-in-a-lifetime investment in transportation at the federal level. How do we get more competitive? In Nebraska, we're a buyback state, which means our local governments a lot of times don't deal with federal funds. We have made it so that we do it for them. So we need to empower and provide resources to allow our local governments like Fremont, Columbus, North Bend to have the opportunity to go after some of these historic funds. And so the infrastructure hub that is up and running today that provides technical assistance to local governments is the way in which we provide that local assistance to get that end goal of drawing down those federal funds at the local level. So you really see an opportunity to to look at the progress through the roads, but also to hear from the DOT, hopefully, about what are the other things that we're doing to make sure that we can condense that timeline of project delivery and really efficiently move our transportation network forward. So thank you for all being here. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate a very monumental achievement for the department, and we appreciate your partnership.
Thank you, Vicki. We'd be happy to take a couple questions if any press is here. Anything that anybody would like to bring up that we haven't talked about, be happy to try to address it. Well, I think that maybe, okay, hey, Neil.
Probably Vicki. Earlier this summer, your office gave an estimate of when that stretch is going to be completely done, all lanes open, Forest Rail's gone. They said about August 28th that time. Any update on that?
We'll get the district to get you an update on it, and as soon as we get done here.
I think maybe the other thing we want to do is echo a great thank you to all the contractors that have worked on this project. I know that lots of obstacles in the way over all these years, and they've been tenacious and innovative and entrepreneurial to make it happen. So we're very, very grateful for all the contractors that have made these highway projects to take place. So let's give them one more shout out as well. So this signature for 1335, which helps us improve the permitting and